My name is Corey Woodley, and welcome to the Pullman Police Advisory Committee. We're excited to get started here today, and thank you guests for being here. So we're going to go ahead and start right into approving our February minutes. It's been a while since we've had a regular meeting, so we're approving minutes from a bit ago. But has everyone had a chance to look those over or have any objections to anything in those? And if I hear a motion for approving those.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we'll get those signed and off to Darby to get those posted. So, it should be a fairly quick and easy meeting today. It's pretty nice outside, so I'm guessing a lot of you guys are really excited to get outside. I hear laughter, so that means yes. All right, and it's Darby's birthday, so I wanted to say happy birthday, Darby. So it's a special day, so we could say thank you for all of your help with the Police Advisory Committee and all of your support, and have a happy birthday today.
Thank you.
So, sadly, I'm sure you guys all remember that our vice chair is moving to Spokane.
I don't think I've made an announcement, so everybody doesn't know yet. But
No.
yep.
Okay.
Sad to say this will be my last meeting at the Pullman Police Advisory Committee. It's been a fun few years, but my family and I were moving up to Spokane in the middle of June, so we won't be here anymore. And with that, you guys will need a new vice chair.
Yes. So we are going to miss you, Justin, very much, and thank you so much for your service to this committee. So we appreciate that. Round of applause for you.
It's been my pleasure.
So we'll hope to see you at the next meeting just to say goodbye, but if you can't be, that's no big deal. We get that you're going to be moving. So traditionally, they have done elections where the vice chair and the chair is elected at the same time. So I wanted to also let you guys know that I have been completely swamped, and the chief and Darby probably also know that I've been very delayed in my emails lately. So I am open to staying on as chair as long as a vice chair would like to help me and assist me more, keep up over the next few months while I have a couple hurdles to jump over. Or if someone wants to put their name in or nominate somebody else to be the chair, I would be happy to be nominated or go into the vice chair position as well. This is something I want you guys to think about over the next month. If there's a leadership position you guys would like to consider having on the Police Advisory Committee, that would be great. Or if there's somebody you think that you'd like to nominate to have a leadership position, that would be something you can do as well. So if you guys can come to that next meeting so we can host an election and have that, we can appoint someone to those positions and redo those elections at the same time. Do I have any questions or conversation about that?
So I think it'd be interesting to hear what you do and what Justin, I mean, it's like, so people know what does it mean to be a chair, right?
Right, yeah. So let's talk about, yeah. So, well, technically, I'm chair, and you go under your position, so you continuing to represent your area. So, for instance, I'm under WSU faculty and staff currently. I would need to move positions because I am no longer WSU faculty and staff. I currently work for the city of Moscow. I also do a couple things. I work for a local committee, the Police Basin Aquifer Committee. I'm their executive manager. So I would need to switch either to under the business community, because I also do own a business, but that's another side thing that I do. Or I'd need to switch elsewhere. But to say generally what the chair and the vice chair does is we work with the chief and with Darby to get the agenda put together. So that whole themed idea that we were doing, that was something I was like working toward, is thinking, what are some themes that we can bring up to the community? What are some community interests that we can bring in here? So you're kind of the idea maker as the chair. Obviously, you run the meetings as the chair as well. You come in, you run the meetings. We use, we use Robert's rules, but I call them casual Robert's rules because we all know that sometimes I forget to do things in an order with that. But so we try to formalize the meeting. Typically, we work on an annual report. So we record what we're doing. We put that. We try to keep a calendar of what PAC is up to. Too many acronyms, and we record the activities we're doing, such as Lentil Festival, how many people are involved, what kind of volunteers we have, that kind of stuff. and you organize things like that. So that's another thing in our agenda today is the Lentil Festival. Is we're gonna organize, who's gonna help us volunteer for that kind of thing. Also, another thing, that responsibility that you have is, so let's say someone turns in an application for a new position on our committee. The Darby will email you about that, and she will say, come in, we're gonna have an interview to interview a new person. You're gonna do an interview with the chief, and then you bring that to the committee and you talk to the committee about those interviews. So are there other things you guys think that general responsibilities of the chair position?
I think that was an excellent summary.
Okay, all right. And Justin, why don't you speak a little bit to the vice chair position? Because he's been my backup and my go-to to everything.
She said the chair and the vice chair do all these things, but really the chair does all that. I'm there to assist when needed and asked, and if she's unable to do something, I jump in there and help her with it. So it's kind of an assistant chair. That's about it.
Yeah. So any other questions on that? Sometimes it can take more time than others, and it's hard because, yes, this is a volunteer position, but, I mean, I love doing it, but it's something when you get super busy and you have high job demands, where I've been working 60-plus hours a week the last few months, it's been a little bit hard for me to get to the duties, and then it leaves you feeling like, oh, I really want to be a good chairperson of the Police Advisory Committee, but at the same time, you have to prioritize other things as well. So it's been a little bit difficult to balance over the last few months particularly. I'm imagining if in the next few months my schedule is going to open up a little bit more. It's just going to be tense for a few months, and I need you guys to know that and understand that that's why maybe I'm not always as punctual as I usually am. So I just want to be upfront and open about that and let you guys think about that and know that elections are coming up. So if you guys want, or really, we're gonna point election. I don't know what do we usually call it. When Arlene left, she was like, we're gonna elect somebody else, and we're gonna get 2 positions in there. So feel free to think about it. Why don't you email Darby if you're interested in either a chair or vice chair position? We can always sit and meet for coffee and talk about it, if you want to do that as well. Any other questions?
I have one, which is it possible for an alternate to have one of those positions? Or
Yes.
can it only be the representative?
Yes, an alternate can have that position.
I don't think it specifies. I don't think it specifies, so
Okay,
if it doesn't
so then,
specify, it's
yeah.
allowed,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, thank you.
We can make it specify as well.
Yeah, I don't see that. I didn't see that specified when I was looking through things, so. And it doesn't matter how new of a member it is either, because I was very new. I was on for 2 months when I moved into this position, and I do love it. It's just sometimes it can be like I want to be active in it and I want to do things. But I think a solid 15 hours a month you should dedicate, I would say, to doing this. And sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Sometimes I'd help with interviews. So on weekends, if they're interviewing a candidate for a police position, or if they're interviewing somebody for any kind of administrative position at the police department, I would volunteer to sit in at those interviews. And I think that's a very important thing to do, because it gives our voice and our perspective into who's going to be representing our police department, and I think that's pretty important. So that's something that is optional, of course, and also the vice chair has done that several times, and I believe that it doesn't have to be just the chair and vice chair. So there's always options if you are interested in doing that too. So, all right. If we have nothing else, we have a new member applicant that I did not make the interview with Amy, and I didn't know, Chief, if you wanted to talk about that.
Sure. So we have an applicant, Amy Nusbaum, who's here, and when I'm done, I'll ask her to step up and tell us a little bit about herself. But she lives in Pullman. She lives on Military Hill and is a Washington State University student. And so Amy, if you want to go ahead and step up and maybe tell us Yeah, podium. And tell us about yourself and why you're interested in the position.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Amy. I'm a WSU graduate student, so I am getting my PhD currently, so we'll be in town for at least 3 more years. I also did my undergraduate degree here, so I've been in Pullman now 5 years, which seems like a very long time. I'm from Washington originally, the west side of the state, but not the cool Seattle area. I'm about 45 minutes from the border with Oregon, so the southwest side. I'm interested in being on this committee. I don't know what you would call it. I realized that I was really involved in the WSU specific community, but wasn't really or hadn't had the opportunity to be more involved in Pullman generally. And considering I've been here for 5 years now, or that's a lie, 6 years, and will be here for at least a few more years, I thought that I should probably get involved more in the community that I was living in more broadly than just WSU. So I saw that the Police Advisory Committee had an opening for Military Hill, so that worked out well. I also think that my background in psychology might be at least somewhat useful. I actually specifically researched decision making, so sort of is a niche spot that might work out well for the committee. So. Anyone have any questions for me?
Well, that's really cool research.
Yeah, most of the time. Psychology? Yeah, experimental psychology. So I'm not trained in like helping people with anything, and that's good because no one wants me doing that in a one-on-one capacity. Yeah.
Well, perfect. No other questions? I don't hear any, but it's awesome that you've been here for so long, so.
Yeah.
Actually, we are going to vote on this, and we haven't changed our process yet, so this is kind of silly. We actually have you step out, and we vote on it, but you can always watch it on YouTube unless I hold up this, which will tell them to pause it.
I think I'm going to not do that.
Okay. And we will tell you when to come back in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, we can get things back rolling on for our recording.
I'm assuming Gary did.
Oh, what's that?
Did you tell her?
Is there like an initiation ceremony?
So we're putting you to work right away. So
Congratulations, you're the new chair.
You'll run that by my
Well, Amy, thank you for your application and welcome to the committee.
Why, thank you guys. I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. And Darby will order a name tag for you. It might be a few months until you have one, but we'll have one for
Can I
you.
make one for the interim and bring with me?
Well,
Yes.
if you want to.
we should
why
have
not?
one before
Yeah.
next meeting,
Well,
right?
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
before the next meeting? Okay, they're faster than I thought they were. Okay. So another thing I did put on the list is, believe it or not, we only have 2 more meetings until the Lentil Festival.
Wow.
So this always surprises me. It just gets nice outside, and then we have 2 meetings left until the Lentil Festival.
Well, that's fall.
Well, when you meet, when you meet monthly, that can happen. So it's something I just wanted to bring to the table a little bit sooner this year, so that in case anyone has any ideas that they want to do anything different. Traditionally, what happens is on Friday, we run the Lentil Festival booth, the Police Advisory Committee, and then on Saturday, the police department runs the booth themselves. So there's a lot of family that comes to this event. Typically, we hand out fingerprinting kits to to families who come there who are interested in those. We hand out coloring books. Justin is like our all-time like best person to do this event, so it's going to be a little bit difficult without him this year. It always has such excitement, and he's always handing out suckers with our card, and people actually look at it. So he's like learned these tricks to get people to actually know who we are, which is pretty cool. So we'll have to learn some of those things and live on some of those things that you've taught us to do. So does anyone have any ideas or suggestions, or do we want to bring in the pamphlets or information that we have?
Are you talking about just for our booth?
Yeah, well,
Ideas?
it's gonna be the same as the police department. They use the same boards and everything and display information, but I didn't know if there was anything you guys wanted to hand out specifically about our group, or if you had any ideas on what you wanted to do, or if we could prepare for anything else.
Probably would be good to see the boards before the Lentil Festival.
So maybe update them
next
this year. I think we
meeting. At least-
thought about doing that last year, but then
Well,
never.
if we
got to
have
that.
them for people to look at, then people can say, I thought we brought it in other years as well, but I don't know.
Oh, okay,
to look
maybe
at.
we did, I don't know.
Maybe plan on bringing it in the July meeting so everybody can look at it and say, let's change this, let's change this.
Or add this.
Let's add
and-
this.
Okay, let's do that. Let's bring that in at the next, let's see, the July meeting, not the next meeting.
We have our shirts, most
Yes.
of us now, and
Yes, we
those
do.
who are missing them.
Yeah, and I
might
have
need
some,
them.
if you haven't received yours yet, I've got them.
Okay, perfect. And do we have any extras?
Well,
you think?
we have some that we ordered for people who are no longer on the committee, so I probably have some extras, and then we can order
Okay.
what we need.
So
They-
Amy, if you wanna let Darby know your size.
Okay.
And then, so what we,
Friends, yeah, they're fine.
okay, perfect. Yeah, well, we can just, if you don't have one, just let Darby know, and Darby can also look what she has too. And what we do is we do it in shifts, so let's see, we get there at 10, 11? What time
I
do
thought
we?
it was later. I thought it was
On
like,
Friday, it starts at 3.
yeah, I thought it was
Okay,
like
maybe I always get
2
there
PM
too
or something.
early.
We got there for setup and,
Yeah, 2 PM for setup, and then we have someone there until 9, I believe.
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
Okay, so we will split it into shifts depending on how many of you want to volunteer to be at that event. Typically, we did 2 people per shift because a lot of people actually stop and talk and want to know what's going on at the police department, which is exciting that people are interested and people are interested in what our group is. So another idea I had is maybe for our day is to get some sort of like Velcro banner that we can put out that says police advisory, more exemplified, because a lot of times people think that we are just the police department, and we need something that says a little bit more about what police advisory is, or maybe make a handout or something. I'm open to ideas about that, or we could just leave it the same too, so I'm pretty flexible.
Now, this committee doesn't work with the chamber on their booth, right? This
No.
is independent of the chamber.
Yeah, police department is separate from the chamber.
Well, I just meant on the Lentil thing, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's,
So I'm sitting around in a chamber meeting and they're discussing Lentil. This has nothing
Yeah,
to do
no.
with that.
Well, yeah, we rent booth space, so
From the
the
chamber.
police advisory committee uses the space Friday night, and then the police.
Do they always
department
put you in the
uses it
same
Saturday.
spot?
They have been, yeah. They've accommodated us so we can get a police car right there, so it's usually by the driveway.
usually right next to the beer garden.
yeah.
That's
So
a
you
good
get to see
All the
all
time
the
people walk out
activity.
right in front of the
Oh,
police
I
booth.
think that's marvelous. Good planning. And do you have people that make your signs? If you want a big poster sign to hang on the front, do you have somebody to do that?
No.
I'll do it.
I mean, okay, if you want to.
I'll take care of that part.
If you would like to do that, that
Yeah,
would
that'll
be
be fine.
great.
I'll get it done.
Typically, if we were to make like a flyer or something, like I would probably put it together and then get Darby's approval and the chief's approval if I put any materials together.
We always need someone to volunteer, so that's
And
good.
we had those little business card things we were handing out. Do we still have some of those, or are they all gone?
Yeah, I think we still have some, but we probably need to order more before this
Okay,
Lentil Fest.
and then we'll make sure we have more suckers, because I think those were like definitely a winner.
Handing out
definitely-
suckers with cards, and everybody would take it and look at the card and actually read it.
Yeah.
If you just
So the
hand them
trick
things,
is to
they'll
put the
put
card
it away
around
and
the
they'll never look
sucker
at it
and then-
again.
And they're like, okay, and they actually read it, which is pretty,
Is it like a business card or what kind of?
Pretty much, yeah, it's
Yeah.
business card and explained what the advisory committee was.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
One thing to remember about the banner is that Chief, they have like this logo, same logo we have on the card, but if it's reasonable to get it on the banner, you know, for some continuity between what
The
we're.
police logo?
Well,
The
you have.
advisory.
We have a
Isn't
police
it different? I think it's
advisory.
advisory logo, right?
Well, it's the police, like, logo, but then it says Police Advisory Board,
Something like
or
that.
Is
Police
it on the
Advisory Committee
t-shirts?
underneath.
Yeah, is
If
that
I see it
what
on the
is? It says
t-shirt?
on the
Yeah.
t-shirt.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
but anyway.
Yeah,
Good point.
and I can always help with that too. So, just to get that on our radar, but if anyone else, does anyone else have anything else for that? You guys all wanna get outside, I can tell. So I will pass it over to the chief for the police department update.
Well, tonight I have like 5 pages of updates, so I don't know why you're saying we're gonna have a short.
We didn't see you last month.
Last 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've hosted meetings here instead. So, we hired Kelly Smith as a record specialist. She started working March 8th, and Kelly fills our last records vacancy. Police Officer Tiana Dillon graduated from the Police Academy on March 22nd. She finished 3rd overall in the entire academy, so she did a really good job. She's now in field training. We had 1 vacancy from Riley Michaelbus leaving to go to King County. And so we hired another Riley. Riley Harkins is a female. We hired her, she started April 3rd. She started the academy April 18th, and she's set to graduate on August 23rd. So now we have 3 females in the police department.
That's very good.
On the taxi ordinance possible amendment, we held a public meeting here in March, and it was streamed live on Facebook. And we, after taking input and having more discussions with Uber and Lyft representatives, I'll be putting a report together and going to council, where council will determine whether they want to amend our ordinance or not. We're also holding public meetings on unmanned aerial system or drone. Our first public meeting was April 27th at Butch's Den in the Cub, specifically to target WSU students and try to make it convenient for them to come to a meeting. That was hosted by the WSU Robotics Club. We held another meeting that was hosted by the Pullman League of Women Voters, thank you, Barbara, at Umpqua Bank on May 17th. And we have one more meeting, I'm sorry, that was May 3rd. And we have one more meeting as May 17th, which will be in the city council chambers right here at 6:30 p.m. We had a really good attendance I think at the meeting at Umpqua Bank hosted by the league, and Representative Joe Schmick actually came and asked some questions. And that's all available to be viewed on Facebook, because it keeps all of, anytime you stream something live, it keeps the video there. The other ordinance that's pending is the ATV ordinance. We held a public meeting at our meeting here in April to take public input. And so I'm preparing a report that will go to council on that as well. At the February 28th council meeting, I have a few months to catch up with since we haven't had a regular meeting for a while. And I think Chris was at a meeting for me also. The Law Enforcement Officer of the Year that is given out by the, help me out, Ted.
American Legion.
American Legion every year, went to Alex Gordon this year. March 2nd, I made a presentation to Kiwanis entitled The Recent Evolution of Law Enforcement. I'm trying to remember if I gave that presentation here, did I? I think I did.
I think
Yeah.
we did.
March 4th, our employees participated in a Guns and Hoses Relay for Life fundraiser that Darby helped coordinate, and we raised over $1,200 for American Cancer Society. Right? March 9th, I did a presentation at the Criminal Justice Ethics class at WSU. March 10th, I did a presentation for the Washington State Communications Officers Education Subcommittee on dealing with the press. March 15th, Kevin Gardis and I, and also Adam Lincoln, our new city supervisor, met with College Hill Association to talk about ideas to improve snow removal up in the College Hill core area during the winter. This last winter in particular, just because it was the winter that it was, we had some significant issues with street access, with cars being parked in spots, and then the snow and ice building up out into the street, and really limited access, particularly for emergency vehicles in different areas. And so we're looking at different ways to address that, and we've looked at what U of I does and what Spokane does, and one of the things that we're looking at possibly doing is to prohibit parking during some of the breaks that WSU has, so like the winter break, prohibit parking on certain streets that are critical up in the College Hill core area, and during that time then city crews can get up there and clear out all the ice and snow, and so the streets can stay wide enough for travel. And then also other times of the year for the gravel removal and also for leaf removal. And these would be times when WSU is not in session. We're also working with WSU Transportation Services to identify some places on campus where cars couldn't be parked for the students that aren't leaving or leaving cars here. So they'll have a place that they can park their cars during those time periods. We're still trying to figure out all the details on that, and ultimately we'll go to council with a recommendation and hopefully have something in place before next winter. We also talked about that, and when we had our joint city council and ASWSU meeting. We have 2 of those meetings a year, and the most recent one, that was a topic that we also discussed with ASWSU. The week of March 20th, I went to the Academy of Criminal Justice Conference in Kansas City. March 27th, we had our sister city, Kasai, Japan. They had some middle school students that came into town and were here for about a week or so, and whenever they come into town, they do a tour of the police facility, and so we accommodated that and posted some pictures on Facebook. April 5th, I did a presentation about recreational marijuana in Pullman to the quarterly regional breakfast meeting. That's a meeting that includes mostly elected officials and also appointed officials in Whitman and Latah counties, and Pullman and Moscow and Colfax and Palouse. April 13th, Washington State University hosted what they called a cannabis research workshop, and this is the second one they've held. It was at their Spokane campus, and they bring together researchers from across the country that are involved in cannabis research for everyone to report on what they're doing and try to kind of coordinate what isn't being done and how they can all work together. And so I was invited to attend that. We've been working with Washington State University on some of the research, and we're going to be having officers doing some field sobriety tests on some research volunteers who will have known doses of THC in their system, and it's research to determine how that presents itself in field sobriety tests for police officers to ultimately help law enforcement better identify THC impaired drivers. A number of months ago, we were contacted by the instructor in a Communications 490 class, and actually it was kind of a broadcast sent out to a lot of agencies asking if they could have students help on certain projects as part of their class assignment. And so we volunteered. One of the topics was website, and so we volunteered to be a test location, and so students met with Darby and I to talk about our website and what really we felt it should be used for, and its strengths and weaknesses, and we just asked them to help us identify maybe some better navigation for the site as well as the content. So Darby and I went to their final class, that were their final, they presented their findings, and we are still waiting for the written report, but they gave us some really good ideas of how to improve our website. On April 26th, I attended a meeting. Usually the Joint Terrorism Task Force holds an annual meeting for all the law enforcement executives in the region that they serve. And we had one April 26th, and the speaker there was a senior executive from the FBI's Counterterrorism Division. April 29th was the family fair held at Lincoln Middle School, and we had staff there doing a bike rodeo and some child seat inspections. Some things coming up. We are receiving in-car cameras for our cars. You may recall that back in 2013, we phased out our old in-car cameras when we got body-worn cameras. The manufacturer of our body-worn cameras, which used to be Taser International, and they changed their name to Axon. We are purchasing cameras through them. They work work jointly with our body-worn cameras, and there's also different triggers that will turn a camera on, such as when the emergency lights go on. You can set it up to have it when a door opens, so there's a lot of different options. And when we view videos back at the station, we can watch a number of the videos simultaneously from the different officers that were at the scene and from the car video. So it's going to give us more data, more video than we have now just from the body-worn cameras. And there's some events that they're particularly good at, such as for drunk drivers. When officers are following a car, they can capture that information, and anything that happens really in the front windshield of the car, chasing someone. The pursuit that we had where we captured the homicide suspect from Moscow a couple of years ago, it just so happened that the first officer that was chasing that car had his body camera set in a really good spot to view what happened. That doesn't always happen. We looked at the second officer in line, and we were looking, it was basically facing down like at his instrument panel. So the in-car camera will resolve those issues for us in the future. I applied for a grant from the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, and they are funding most of that equipment. Following up from the constituency poll, last time I was here, the street sign at Alcora and Crestview, hopefully that's back up.
Yep.
Did they move it, or did they put it in the same spot?
They moved it across the street.
Okay.
So that's right where
I didn't know if they would do that or not, so I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear they did. And that's all I have.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
How did graduation go?
For us, it went fine. Graduation typically is, other than just having a lot more traffic in town, for us, it's not a high volume call event. We just have a lot more people in town. People are at the restaurants and driving through town, so then the WSU students generally behave themselves that weekend, so usually it's low impact for us. I will mention the one case that we had the other day where a WSU student was walking to her apartment and was followed by a person who, when she went into her apartment and tried to close the door, he forced the door open and started choking her. She was able to get out of his grasp and basically put him in a headlock and hit him a few times, and he took off running, and she called 911 immediately, and our officers found him nearby and arrested him. I remember one event since I've been here during 7 years that has involved basically a stranger attempted sexual assault, which I think this was, that we've had. I mean, most of the incidents that we have are at least acquaintances or people that maybe that are at a bar and are intoxicated and get in an argument and there's some type of an assault. But rarely do we see something that involves a stranger type of an incident. And this was one of those, so it's very out of character for us. But I actually met the victim today and told her what a great job she did. And So, anyway, that was just an unusual crime, I think, for Pullman.
Was he a WSU student?
No.
Any other questions? Anyone? I think it's pretty cool that they're gonna be able to see the body worn cameras from all of these different angles. I think there's gonna be a lot of useful information that can come of that.
Yeah, and another new feature is when someone turns their body worn camera on, body worn cameras within a certain radius will automatically be turned on, same way with the in-car camera. So we'll have less incidents where an officer either forgot to turn it on, or because of the incident didn't turn it on because they were focused elsewhere. So we'll have a lot better coverage.
Okay. Do you know if Moscow is using the similar technology?
They don't have body worn cameras.
Okay.
I don't remember if they even have in-car cameras, I'm not positive.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chief Jenkins, for that update. All right, so now we can go on to our constituencies poll, and typically what we do is we go around, and basically it's what you represent. You can say anything, really. Sometimes you can pass or say that I don't see anything going on, or if you see something that's going on Military Hill, say, I've noticed that there's a lot of traffic at this area, or I heard from my neighbor that they are complaining about littering in this area, or whatever.
I don't think I have anything.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Corey, can I check in because I have to
Oh,
leave?
yes, sorry.
I'm Barbara Hammond, and I'm a College Hill representative, and it's starting to be a little quiet on College Hill. And you can park here now, so, and nothing bad to report.
Okay,
And I'm sorry I have to leave.
that's okay. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Great.
Come back over here. I had two things. One of my students kind of reported informally that when she was studying at home 2 weeks ago, she had someone open her door, which was unlocked, and then kind of enter, and she was watching TV, so it was dark, but then realized that someone was home, and then he was wearing a ski mask, and then walked away.
Did she
So,
report that? Or?
I don't know if it was reported to the police or not, but it sounded like it may have been. I don't know if it was or not, but I can find out more information if you want.
It's not ringing a bell with me.
It was, yeah, I
did you see
saw
it?
that it had
On
been,
Facebook,
I don't know if
yeah.
it was the same person,
I
but
don't know
I
if it
did
was.
see
I
a
saw
report
something
of
like
someone
that
in a
too.
ski mask.
Yeah.
entering a-
I mean, main thing I'd say is, especially this time of year, houses are empty, apartments are empty, and so I think it's more common for people to come through town and just check unlocked doors. So I just wanted to mention that. And then someone mentioned that the crosswalk light on Grand, the new light, is really confusing. And like, where do you stop if because it switches from yellow to a blinking red, and I
Right.
don't know if you've had issues with it.
We've heard that, and a few months ago, was it, that we put out,
The
we
video.
put out kind of some more information to the public with a video that showed how it worked. But of course, we can only reach so many people, so.
Sure.
Actually, that'd probably be good for this to put on the city social media
Yeah,
site. The city's, they've had a site for a while, but it's been fairly inactive, and so our new city supervisor wants to get that going again and have it be more relevant. And so actually, Darby is one of the people that's helping to get that going, and that would be a good venue to get that, although they don't have a lot of followers yet. I was just looking on our stats, and we get a reach of about 5,000 people or so regularly for, like last week, I think we had over 5,000 reach. So we have a pretty good following, so we can put information there. It's just it's hard to reach everybody, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
could.
all I had. I didn't have anything else on Sunnyside.
I was gonna say we could maybe put that on the website too.
Yeah.
The video of how that works.
Sure.
Couple
And
of
to our
things on
YouTube.
Pioneer, just for information. Driving by tonight, it looks like they're having more trouble on the main Walmart drag. It looks like they're building the Berlin Wall there. It's unbelievable. Looks like the thing is falling down on,
Yeah, that wall had failed before, and they did some repairs, and
This looks like
starting
a
to-
bigger failure, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but, yeah, they're having an issue, so that road's gonna be closed for a while they do repairs.
The Koppel Farm sign is down at the intersection of Professional Mall Boulevard and Derby. It's on the trail there that marks the jogging trail or whatever. And then back.
So is it a street sign, or?
No, I think it's kind of a jogging path sign there. It's actually, as you're heading down the hill, it's on your left-hand side as you're on the asphalt trail there, but it is a city sign. Then, last winter I reported there was some obscene graffiti at the restroom right by the flagpole in the city park. And it has been painted over, because I used to see it when I was walking the dog and I was over by the river. You can't read it from that distance, but if you're up right behind the building, it's still legible, and of course, they're playing baseball and stuff there now, so that needs to be.
There was an attempt to paint over, but you can still see it?
You can't see it as well, but it's legible if you're up.
Okay.
You can see it if you're on the field playing softball or baseball, yeah, and read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wednesday is a bike to school day for the school district. Hopefully we'll have lots of kids bike or ride or walk to school and reduce some of that traffic congestion we have at the elementary schools. So
Well, keep that in mind. Hopefully everyone's driving slow around all the time.
that's all I have.
Okay.
And we'll have some officers working with, at a couple of the schools for that event. And we did put a press release out, and I'm sure we're gonna do some more social media outreach the day, at least probably the day prior to that, right, for a
Yeah.
reminder.
Justin Brackey, Military Hill. I just had one question about some vehicle prowls over the weekend. I saw something that there were like 5 cars got prowled on Saturday night or Sunday morning. I was just wondering if there's been a rash of prowls in weeks prior, or if that was just one night. Somebody was just going.
You know, we've seen some areas that have been hit here and there, and it hasn't been limited to one particular area of town. I would say 90% of the vehicles that happens to or have been left unlocked. So we've been trying to, get the word out to remind people to lock their cars. It doesn't mean somebody isn't going to break into their car, but when someone's looking for an easier target, they'll look for the easiest target. And if you make your car harder to break into, then maybe they'll pick the one next to yours that's. But we have seen, I think that we have seen somewhat of an uptick of the vehicle prowls over the last probably 3 or 4 months.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Charlene Jasper, I'm a at-large, not an alternate. I'm wondering if we have any kind of rules or ordinances about troublesome, like yards being kept up and trees hanging into other people's property and that type of thing. I've had people ask some questions about a house on Spring Street that's becoming a public nuisance.
Well, first, if you want to send me the information, the address on that house, we can send somebody out to look at it. And there's different departments will handle different things. So we do have a nuisance code that addresses issues such as trash and junked vehicles and appliances and furniture that are out in the yard. Issues involving like fences and plants would be more like a planning department type of an issue. So if you want to send me that information and the particular issues that you know about, we'll handle what is we do at the police department, and then if another department would handle some of that, I'll send the information to them as well.
And then if you have somebody's tree hanging completely over into your yard, is there somebody to be contacted about that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Person knows how to run his chainsaw?
Technically, if it's on your side of the property,
Yeah,
you can
it's,
cut it down.
Yeah,
Right?
if you have a limb on your property, that's your property, I guess.
Exactly.
I don't want to give any
But if the roots are on the
chainsaw
other
advice.
side of the fence,
Yeah, no chainsaw advice here.
I didn't hear it from you.
It's hard because sometimes you have a tree that's half on your property, half on their property. You can't cut half the tree down.
That's why they plant them there. I just figured out my HOA's tactic.
Relationship builder.
Yep. Half on my property, half on their property. Wait a second.
Nothing else.
Thank you.
Phyllis Stallcop, Sunnyside Hill. I've noticed lately when I'm coming from the library and wanting to turn and go down South Grand, why is there not a yellow or a green arrow for that traffic? Because as people are coming in on the Colfax Highway, and if, you know, if they're in their left lane, they're gonna turn and go north, but you cannot, particularly if it's a bus or a truck or something big, you cannot see that right-hand lane that's gonna turn and go down South Grand. So you're just kind of stuck there, and sometimes there's nobody there, but you can't see and you don't turn. So, and the light can change. So I've noticed that several times lately, and I think a green left-hand turn arrow there would be a marvelous change.
I will pass that on to engineering.
Can I make
Thank
a
you.
comment about that too? I was noticing at front of the library when you're coming this way and if you want to turn and go along behind where Cougar Plaza is, that way, if there was a light there on Grand, right in front of the library, in front of the bank,
Is that the same spot you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that is the intersection I'm talking
is
about.
it, so are you talking about an arrow going then would go turn and go onto the
It'll take you-
Davis Way?
No, take you
but
to
it's not-
south, onto South Grand.
Yeah, it
is
would
what
take
she's
you
talking about.
from the library onto South Grand.
Oh,
is
and I
what
think there
I'm
needs to be
thinking.
another one going the other way so that if the traffic is piled up and you're sitting there, you can't. You can.
Going south on Grand and turning left toward the library on Olson.
Yeah. What is that street? Where it
Olson.
turns from Davis Way to Olson.
Yeah.
So turning from Grand onto Olson.
But that's a
There's a,
right turn.
there's a turn lane there. No, there's a left turn. I'm talking about the left turn. You're coming from Dismore's. You're sitting between the bank and the library.
From North Grand onto,
Yeah, and if you want to turn onto Olson, there's no light. So if
Right.
there's a lot of traffic coming, and with us trying to figure out how to ease traffic a bit, if there was a turn line there, because you could sit there through a couple of lights trying to get through. And it's an alternative way for people to go, so they can go around
Right.
and end up over by Sam Dial instead of having to
Yeah.
continue to go down Grand.
Okay.
So Phyllis and I'd like you to do that
Yes,
this
please.
week. We hope
Before
that
the
by the
next
next
meeting.
meeting, there's arrows all over that corner.
That's what we need, is arrows.
You can borrow my drill.
You are way overestimating my influence.
Is the old timer on the committee here, just to add to that, I can remember when that was the only stoplight in Pullman. That was it.
Like Wallace, Idaho.
Wow.
That would be nice.
What year was that?
We came in '68.
And there was only one light in
That was
Pullman?
it, right when you come off the Colfax Highway.
Wow, maybe things have
When you
changed.
came down Stadium Way to Dismore's, there were a four-way stop.
wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Interesting.
And Stadium Way was one lane each way.
And there was no Bishop Boulevard.
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah. That's the big change, isn't it?
So I'm business alternate. I don't have anything to report.
Okay, well, I am WSU faculty staff, but I'd rather report on stuff I see on Sunnyside, Pioneer Hill instead. So, I just noticed that I was so surprised today. I was driving along with my windows unrolled. You know, it's nice outside, and I'm still hearing studded snow tires. So I saw 3 cars today in Pullman, 2 of them on Sunnyside Hill and 1 of them on Pioneer Hill that had studded snow tires driving around. I'm just like, wow, it's pretty
Well, I do know that we're enforcing that because somebody got a ticket, posted it on our Facebook page. But
Thanks
they
for the
didn't think that was a
ticket.
very good idea.
So maybe we should post a reminder. By the way, we are ticketing for this. at this point or something.
Yeah, we can do that.
And we really did even try to remind people several times that that was happening soon.
And I'm like, it's May, right? It
think-
is May.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are short on money, they try and get away with it, you know,
Yeah,
something like that.
maybe.
Maybe the students just had their cars parked all winter, and they're heading home,
Yeah.
pulling it out for the first time, oops.
Okay, well, that's all I have, so.
Business representative, I have nothing to report, other than it's quiet up on the hills now. Students are gonna, construction season's starting.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the roads are shutting down.
It's getting loud over there.
Pioneer Hill has been adequately covered by my esteemed colleague and neighbor. Thank you, Richard.
Well, before we finish up, I just want to say, Justin, thank you very much for your participation in the committee and your leadership as well, and for offering the many things that you've done, including the certificates from your store to kids wearing their bike helmets and just contributing to the safety of the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are you gonna be doing in Spokane?
Same thing.
Partying.
Same thing.
Oh, party.
Sorry, I gotta be honest.
We're just moving, we're closer to family, that's where I'm originally from, so.
Oh.
So, moving back up now.
Well, you better visit us sometime.
We gotta come down and see the Coug games, right?
Yeah, that's true. You can't miss those.
So will your business close, or did you sell, or?
No, yeah, I'm just moving up there, I'm part owner here, so.
Oh, so you'll, it's, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
That's very cool. All right, I'm guessing everyone's pretty excited to get outside. This is like the earliest we've ended in a long time, so do I hear a motion to adjourn early?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, no one's opposed.